Yes, this is your life on a big night out in Manchester. Tonight we're hoping to pull off our surprise right under the noses of almost 50,000 football fans waiting here at Manchester City's main road ground to see City take on their biggest rivals, Manchester United, in a derby game that marks the end of an era. Because it's the last game in which United will be led by Sir Matt Busby as team manager. Any moment now, Sir Matt will step onto the pitch to be presented with an engraved clock by his friend, City's famous manager, Joe Mercer. And that's why I'm keeping well hidden, because unknown to Sir Matt and the fans, Joe's going to invite me to join them with another surprise.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think Matt and I should first declare a 5 minutes truce while we make this. It is my greatest pleasure of my life, on behalf of Manchester City directors, players, spectators, in fact everybody here, to pay tribute to a great, modest man. What amazing coincidence that he is finishing his career as a manager on the same spot where he came into football in 1928. Now, as usual, Matt, when we play United, we've got a few surprises for you. Now, I'm not going to give this presentation, I'm giving you the real dummy, but a mutual friend of ours is giving it. Eamon Andrews.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Joe Mercer. I'd like you to know what a great honor it is for me to have been asked to make this presentation to Sir Matt. Some of you may not know that 13 years ago I said this is your life to Sir Matt right here in Manchester, and since then, of course, he's won a personal battle for life and his achievements in football and our football history. But as you know, Matt, we never say this is your life for the second time. No. But in addition, apart from this magnificent clock, I do in fact want to make a special presentation to Sir Matt immediately after tonight's match. Because for the first time ever, I'm saying for the second time, this is your life. Sir Matt Busby, CBE. We're going to really do this.
I know, Eamon.
Well, thanks to two fast-moving football teams, your own Manchester United and City, we're now ready. Your last night, of course, after 25 years, Matt, as team manager of a great club, you didn't really think that I meant it for real when I said it to you on that pitch, did you?
I actually thought, Eamon, you have been very good coming to make a presentation.
Well, now, the first time that I said this is your life, Matt, was January the 6th, 1958. In that first story, we heard how the world-famous football manager Matt Busby started his working life as a coal miner in Scotland. And the man who told us is here again tonight. He worked beside you at Parkhead Colliery in Lanarkshire, Sam Smith. Well, then we heard how you left the coal mine to find stardom as a footballer with Manchester City and a lasting friendship with the goalkeeper we saw you with there now, Len Langford. And then on to wartime troop ships with your old army pal, now chairman of Arbroath Football Club, David McKechnie. Now then to the pinnacle of success at the head of two families, your beloved Manchester United and your own family, the Busbys. Your wife, now Lady Busby, your daughter Sheena, and son Sandy. And finally, from that story of 13 years ago, someone who's as proud now as she was then. She's 79, but she's travelled from her home in Belton, Scotland, to be here tonight. Your mother, Helen.
Nellie.
Well, now, just 3 years ago, the former coal miner and soldier that Sam and David knew went with Lady Busby, Sheena and Sandy to be knighted by the Queen. Now, that knighthood came as no surprise to you, Len, did it?
Well, you see, both Matt and I knew the Queen's father.
You knew the Queen's father. That was before he became King George VI. It was the Duke of York when you were introduced to him along with Len, prior to your first cup final as a player with Manchester City in 1933. Now let's see if you can, if you look over here, recognize yourself. First a handshake for Len, then the future king moves slowly along the line to greet you. Helen, did you notice that bow of Matt? It was so elegant. Do you think he was practicing for a long time?
I was expecting him to do that.
Well, let's take one other look at Sir Matt Busby's CBE. Did you ever think at that stage when he was a little bonny baby that he would end up as Sir?
Well, when I heard the good news, it took me a long way back to a small miner's row, right on to Buckingham Palace to be presented to Her Majesty the Queen. It was a wonderful thought.
Of course it was. And all these years later, tonight's game, Sir Matt's last as team manager of Manchester United, the club that for 25 years has been his life. A life that almost came to an end, as we all know, in that tragic air crash at Munich in 1958, in which 23 people died, among them 8 of his own players. Now, even after twice receiving the last rites in that Munich hospital after the plane crash, his concern was for the life of the club. And that life you placed in the hands of someone who came to your bedside. Your first signing when you took over the blitzed Old Trafford in 1945. He's been your assistant ever since. Tonight he's assisting us, Jimmy Murphy. Has described you as the best friend, helper, companion and right hand any manager could wish for, but there was a time when his reference for you wasn't quite so glowing, right?
Quite so good, no. I was always termed by Matt as a fellow that got to the ball first, the type of thing, and he always told me the one thing, Jimmy, the one thing you've always done was get to the ball first, and secondly, he always said too, that the players that played against me had to wear 2 pairs of shin pads.
And did they, Sir Matt?
Well, that's true in many occasions.
Well, now, Jimmy, throughout your 25 years association, you two have almost been inseparable, and it was only pure chance, Jimmy, that you went on that plane that crashed, wasn't it?
That's right. Sheer chance, yes, it was. I pleaded with Sir Matt here to go with the team rather than be manager of the Welsh team, which I was at that particular time, but he insisted I went with the Welsh party.
And the next time you saw him was in hospital in Munich, yeah?
In Munich.
What was it he said to you?
He said to me, I looked at his oxygen tent, shook my hand, he said, Jimmy, keep the flag flying.
Thank you, Jimmy Murphy. And Jimmy did just that with a makeshift side tagged Murphy's Marvels, which included Munich survivors Harry Gregg and Dennis Violet are both in our audience tonight, and Bobby Charlton and Bill Fuchs over here, the team who won through to the FA Cup final. Now, while they were doing it, you were winning your own private battle for life. And now, if you look at that screen, we'll go back to that same again hospital to meet the man who saved your life, or hear from him, Professor George Mora.
Hello there, Matt. How are you over there in England? I have your history here. I believe I know more about you than anyone. Anything you have done, it's all in this book. Well, I believe we fetched you up all right. With me today are some of the people who helped to put you together. I am sure you will remember them. We got together once more for this special date, like you in England. Let me introduce them. Here is Sister Gilda and Sister Solemnis, our nurses. Mr. Gilda is now in Germany is told Oberin of a great hospital. Yes. And Mrs. Royce.
Hello, Matt. I hope you come soon to Munich and see us all.
And Sister Rosel from the operation room. And the thoracic surgeon, Dr. Harlacher. Hello. And our good general four surgeons, Dr. Schäfer, Dr. Bernet, Dr. Oppelt. And our holy man of the hospital, Reverend Geistlicher Rat Smith. Hello. Remember your birthdays? Your is on May 26.
Your birthday?
Mine on May 29. You remember? I wish you the best of everything for the future. Goodbye, Zermet, and a very happy birthday on 26 May. Hello.
Well, it was thanks to that man that you were able to return to England to take up the fight to put United back alongside the best teams in Europe. Help came from the great Spanish club, 5 times European winners, Real Madrid, who agreed to play United in a friendly game. It brought back to Old Trafford this great player. Yes, the great Alfredo Di Stefano seen there scoring 3 goals to help beat Eintracht and win the cup again for Real Madrid. You've described him as the greatest player you've ever seen. Well, tonight he's returned the compliment by flying from Spain to see you. Come in, Alfredo Di Stefano.
Maestro, lo felicito por su vida y por la obra que ha hecho en la juventud futbolística del Manchester.
Not only a maestro among men, but an example to all in the world of sport. Thank you, and you too, Alfredo Di Stefano. Thank you. European football must have seemed a long way off when in early 1963 United dropped to near the bottom of the first division. Your players needed new confidence, and Pat Kieran here can tell us just how you gave it to them. Paddy?
Well, the boss told us that we were going to win the cup. You know, I thought he was joking, but he said that anyway.
And what happened?
Well, we won the cup.
Of course you did. And that FA Cup win put you back on the road to success. In 1965, United won the League Championship, and again for the 5th time under your management in 1967. Manchester confers on you the freedom of the city. But there's 1 acre of the city where you don't have complete run of the place. Manchester City's ground, because there you always come up against the man who's been your rival and friend for more than 30 years. City's manager and one of football's favourite personalities, Joe Mercer. Well done tonight, Joe. Now look, you two fellas have been arch enemies for nearly 40 years, in fact, as players with Everton and Liverpool, England and Scotland, and as managers with City and United. Now, how have you managed to remain such good friends?
Well, when the war, we declared truce, didn't we? And we joined the same army. And I was good to him. Good to him. I used to tip him horses.
Did you?
Yeah. Remember, Matt, when we were all the shot together?
Yes.
And I said, come on, we go to Royal Ascot.
That's
You know,
right.
and I cadged a couple of bikes from the officers' course and we set off.
And you had the food.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
you had the food, yeah.
And then, you know, about half an hour to go, I said, I've got a tip in the 2 o'clock, Matt. And we pedalled like the devil. And, you know, you were older than me, so I said, you park the cars. And I run down to Tattersalls to get the bet on. And the tapes were just going up, and I said to the bookmaker, £3 so-and-so. And he said, he's not running, soldier.
Well, what about the food?
Well, the food was Nora. Nora used to send parcels,
yes,
food
that's right.
parcels. And we had the greatest picnic that Ascot's ever seen. Didn't we?
Sitting down in the lawn there.
Yeah.
It's very, very good.
Tin fruit, and that bread we nicked from the sergeant's mess, or you nicked it.
But it paid off in later years, didn't it?
Well, it was the best picnic we ever invested on, Nora, because we've been invited to all the parties since.
Thank you, Joe Mercer. Thank you. Well, the Busby-Mercer rivalry reached a peak in 1968 when City pipped United at the post to win the league. But you and your team had something bigger on your minds than that year, Matt. If you remember, it was, of course, the European Cup. And your dream that eventually came true when United beat Benfica 4-1 in extra time to become the first ever English club to win the Cup. So right now, let's just see how they did it and how you reacted.
Deftly collected and fed his forwards. Waiting to receive was Mighty Best. He simply walked the ball into the net. Watch this fantastic goal. Bobby Charlton made it 4-1. Matt Busby, the maestro of Manchester United, had groomed a team great enough to beat Europe's best. He was king of soccer. His wonderful 11 men were all princes.
Can you remember how you felt when that final whistle went, Sir Matt?
I never felt better in my life, Eamon. I've been searching for this. This was the ambition. And when it arrived, I thought, well, this is the thing I wanted all my life.
And one man who shared your pride on that night, of course, was your club chairman and friend, Louis Edwards. He's here to tell us about it. Louis. Tell me, what did that win mean to the club?
Oh, great deal. A great deal more to Matt, though. This was...
And he was the one who...
1956. He started in 1956 and to go into Europe, and he finally made it in 1968. Yeah.
And what about the players on that night? What did you feel about
Well,
them?
they were playing for Matt. They were playing for Matt.
They were indeed.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you, Louis Edwards. Thank you. Well, to find out a little more about Sir Matt Busby, who better to ask than the players who helped win that trophy. First, a veteran of 35 European Cup ties, now the club's chief coach, Bill Fuchs.
Well, I feel the boss has been more than a manager. I think to all the lads he's been more of an advisor and a very good friend. I know one little story that highlights this was after Munich, and we hadn't started to travel by air. And I remember he decided it's time to face it. And we had a little trip to Holland to play in Rotterdam. Only a short trip. And you can imagine how the lads felt, especially the lads who were in the crash. And we got over there safely. As soon as we arrived at the hotel, I got on the phone to my wife and she said, she already knows. That the boss, as soon as we touched down in Holland, had been on the phone to Les Olive, the secretary of the club, to tell him to inform all the players' wives and relatives that we'd arrived safely.
A typical Matt gesture. Bobby Charlton. I know you have many a story to tell, Bobby.
Well, but a recent one really is I was doing a commentary for another television company. And I had a little accident early on in the morning. By the time the cup final started, this was cup final day actually, by the time they'd all sat down, a rumour had got round the ground that I'd had a heart attack. So the old man, you know, he says, I better go and find out what's happened. And he travelled all over the ground trying to find out whether this was true or not. Eventually, he found out that it wasn't true. And the first reaction was that he phoned my wife, Norma, to let her know that I was all right. But by the time he got back to his seat, I think he missed 3/4 of the game.
That, knowing Matt, was a big sacrifice. George, you best.
Well, when I first came here, I didn't like Manchester very much. And you probably know I went straight back the following day. And when I'd only been home about 7 or 8 hours, and the telephone went at home, and it was the boss to speak to my father. And the fact that I was only one of hundreds of youngsters, and the fact that he had taken the trouble to phone personally and asked me to come back again, I thought was a great thing. He's probably sorry sometimes that he's asked me to come back.
He says no. I tell you what, he said to me earlier that if he'd known that you were going to take your beard off, he could have used it up on upper deck. Well, Matt, now let's turn to your fans, and in particular to 6 admirers who are hoping to see more of you now. They don't have much time for football themselves because they're all little girls. They're too young to be here tonight, but you can see them on the screen. Your granddaughters, Sheena's trio, Jane, Sandra and Donna, and Sandy's Alison, Jeanette and Alexandra.
This is a surprise for you, isn't it, Matt? We didn't know until today. They thought we might tell. We got the afternoon off school, though. We're going to sing you a song, Matt. The song we sang at Christmas for you. Grandad, Grandad, lovely. That's what we all think of you. Grandad, Grandad, you're lovely. That's what we all think of you. Grandad, Grandad. Good night, God bless, Matt.
Thank you, children. Well done. Well, Matt, the children have had a busy day, not only doing their big performance, but because apart from that, they've been meeting their great-grandmother, Helen. They also met 4 great-aunts and great-uncle. Now you two can meet them, your sisters and your brother. From Corby, Northants, sisters Delia, Margaret and Helen, and from Bells Hill, sister Katie and your brother Jimmy. Throughout your career, you've traveled to so many countries, making so many friends, and I don't say that lightly, because tonight 4 of those friends have traveled more than 6,000 miles from 4 different countries to join in this tribute. First, from Spain, the man who offered you help after Munich, president of Real Madrid, Senor Don Santiago, yes, Bernabeu.
souvenir.
And from Switzerland, the man who finally handed that European Cup to Bobby Charlton, President of the Union of European Football Associations, Gustav Wiedeker. From Germany, he came to see you in that Munich hospital and remained a good friend, former president of Bayern Munich, Rolf Endler, who's just... I tell you, he just landed at Manchester Airport a matter of minutes ago.
Look at here, Rolf.
And finally, from the USA, he too visited you in Munich. He's the US representative to FIFA, a former Glasgow Celtic player, your very old friend, yes, Jimmy Maguire. Now, Sir Matt, you're surrounded by your family, your team, your friends who've all come here tonight in your honor. But before we close, I should like to quote your own words. I will never forget, you said, the man who saved my life. The fact that I'm here today is all due to his skill. That was your tribute to Professor George Maurer, who sent you his greetings from his hospital in Munich. But now you can greet him. He's flown from Munich, one of his rare trips, to meet you again. Come in, Professor Maurer.
Surprise and enjoy you, and I followed the idea of bringing you my congratulations personally.
Very good,
yes.
Very good.
Well, Sir Matt Busby, thanks to this man and your courage, this is your life.